wasn't the relentless gray rain lashing against my condo window. It was the single, silent vibration of my phone on the nightstand. Not an alarm, an alert. I unlocked the screen and opened my banking app, my thumb hovering for just a second before tapping login. Savings account. Yesterday it held $28,000. My life savings, my escape fund. Today the digits stared back at me in stark, unforgiving black and white. Zero point zero. The transaction note was brief, clinical, and devastating. Family investment. Authorized by power of attorney. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared out at the gray Seattle sky and understood the truth with terrifying clarity. My father, Jeffrey, hadn't borrowed money this time. He hadn't crossed a line by accident. He had erased me. I didn't call him. I didn't throw my phone across the room. I walked into the kitchen, brewed a pot of black coffee, and sat at the island watching rain streak down the glass. It felt like appropriate weather for an audit, because this wasn't one mistake. It was the final entry in a ledger I'd been keeping in my head for 27 years. In my family, I was never a daughter. I was infrastructure. I was the invisible support beam everyone leaned on, but no one acknowledged. My sister, Chloe, was the golden child. Loud, chaotic, always chasing the next dream that required immediate funding. And my father was the CEO of our dysfunction, delegating responsibility while taking credit. 3 years ago, Chloe decided she was going to be a lifestyle vlogger. She needed a camera, lights, editing software, a new wardrobe. Jeffrey called it an investment in the family brand. I paid $4,000. The channel lasted 3 weeks. I never saw a return. 2 years ago, Jeffrey's vintage Jaguar broke down. He didn't call a tow truck. He called me, said he was temporarily illiquid. I paid $3,000. He didn't say thank you. He smiled and said, "Good girl." That was my currency. Usefulness. I took a sip of bitter coffee and opened my laptop. The bank's security portal loaded slowly, like it knew what it was about to show me. There it was, the authorization document. A power of attorney dated 5 years ago. I remembered the day perfectly. I was 22, lying in a hospital bed after an emergency appendectomy, still foggy from anesthesia. Jeffrey had pressed the paper into my hand and said, "Just in case something happens, if you're in a coma, I need to be able to pay your bills." I signed. I healed. I forgot the paper existed. He didn't. He filed it away like a spare key, waiting for the day he'd need to unlock my life and empty it out. For years, I wondered why I allowed it. Why I kept paying. Why I didn't scream sooner. Psychologists call it learned helplessness. Picture an elephant tied to a stake with a thin rope. The elephant could snap it instantly, but it doesn't. Because when it was young, it was tied with a heavy chain. It fought until it learned resistance was useless. The rope doesn't hold the elephant. The memory of the chain does. That was me. My father trained me to believe my resources were community property, that my autonomy was a privilege he granted, not a right I owned. I paid rent to exist in this family with my silence and my savings. Looking at that zero balance, the chain finally snapped. This wasn't a family sharing resources in a crisis. This was a parasite killing its host. I finished my coffee. It didn't warm me. I wasn't going to cry over the money. Crying is for people who still believe the other person cares. I knew better. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a declaration of war. I opened a new browser tab. It was time to change the locks. Revoke power of attorney. Confirm. Freeze credit reports. Confirm. Force log out of all devices. Confirm. I changed every password to a 40-character randomized string. I filed a sworn affidavit with the fraud department. I didn't even ask for the money back yet. I just stopped the bleeding. It took 45 minutes to dismantle the access Jeffrey had enjoyed for 5 years. At 9:15, my phone rang. Dad. I let it ring. Then again, on the fourth call, I answered. I didn't say hello. "What the hell did you do to the bank portal?" he snapped. No guilt, just irritation. "I'm trying to move the remaining funds and it says access denied. Fix it." He wasn't calling to apologize for stealing $28,000. He was angry he couldn't steal the last two. "I revoked the access," I said. Silence. Then disbelief. "You did what?" "Undo it," he barked. "We're in a crisis. Chloe's investment collapsed. Creditors are waiting." "It wasn't an investment," I said. "It was online gambling. I saw the codes." "She's your sister," he shouted. "Do you want her ruined? Do you want this family destroyed over a clerical error?" That's when it clicked. In a healthy family, people are separate trees growing side by side. In a narcissistic family, everyone is one organism, and the father is the brain. Chloe was the heart, pumping ego into Jeffrey's sense of importance. I wasn't the heart, I was a limb. Disposable. To him, draining my account wasn't theft, it was reallocation. I'm not on the ship, I said calmly. I'm on the dock. You burned the bridge. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Instagram lit up. Chloe crying softly to her followers, accusing unnamed toxic people of betrayal. Mutual friends messaged me. I ignored them all. I grabbed my keys. I needed to see the one person Jeffrey erased from our history. Aunt Christina. She lived north of the city in a weathered A-frame hidden by fir trees. Jeffrey always called her unstable. I now understood that was code for uncontrollable. She was waiting on the porch, cigarette in hand like she'd been expecting me. He drained the accounts, I said. 28,000, she replied without hesitation. She led me inside and opened an iron safe. Inside was a thick envelope. He's a cannibal, she said. He eats the people closest to him. He did it to me first. She slid the deed across the table and pointed to a highlighted clause. If a beneficiary commits proven financial malfeasance against a direct descendant, their interest is forfeited. Ownership transfers to the victim. My grandfather had built a trap. Jeffrey never read the fine print. The land in Skagit Valley, $350,000. I felt something shift. Not rage. Precision. A lawyer named Marcus confirmed it. Then he showed me something worse. Chloe had forged Jeffrey's signature on a predatory loan. When the lenders threatened criminal charges, Jeffrey panicked. He had a choice. Let his golden child face consequences. Or rob me. He chose me. He used your money to obstruct justice, Marcus said. This is a felony. I didn't hesitate. Do it. When the police knocked on Jeffrey's penthouse door, I watched him unravel. When he blamed Chloe to save himself, I saw the family cannibalize itself in real time. I didn't feel joy. I felt balance. The judge ruled swiftly. The land transferred to my name. I sold it immediately. No nostalgia. No mercy. $350,000 hit my account on a sunny afternoon. I sat in my new apartment, sunlight pouring through the windows, and realized this wasn't revenge. It was restoration. For the first time, I held the seeds of my own life. I didn't bankrupt my family. I balanced the books. And for the first time, I was finally in the black. Silence settled into my life the way dust settles after demolition. Slowly, evenly, without asking permission. No calls, no emergencies, no late-night vibrations demanding sacrifice. At first, the quiet felt unnatural, like standing in a room after a generator shuts off. I kept waiting for the hum to return. It didn't. The first week after the sale, I slept more than I had in years. Not the exhausted collapse of someone escaping a fire, but a deep, unbroken sleep. The kind where your body finally believes it's safe. I woke up without a knot in my chest, without rehearsing explanations for boundaries I no longer had to defend. People think freedom arrives with fireworks. It doesn't. It arrives with paperwork, followed by an unfamiliar calm that feels suspicious until you learn to trust it. I returned to work quietly. No dramatic announcement, no victory lap, just a different posture. My shoulders sat back. My voice didn't rush. I stopped apologizing before I spoke. My manager noticed before I did. You seem lighter, she said one afternoon, half smiling. I am, I replied. And for once, it wasn't a performance. The messages eventually came. Unknown numbers, emails routed through third parties, carefully worded notes from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. They didn't ask how I was. They asked what happened. They wanted context, clarification, justification. They wanted me to carry the burden of explanation so they could remain comfortable in their confusion. I didn't respond. Boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. I let nothing through that required me to bleed. A month later, I received a certified letter. Jeffrey's handwriting slanted across the envelope, aggressive even in ink. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on the counter for 3 days, unopened, powerless. When I finally read it, it was exactly what I expected. Not an apology, a narrative. He framed himself as a man betrayed, a father misunderstood. He spoke of stress, pressure, love twisted by necessity. He warned me that estrangement leads to regret, that family is all you have when the world turns cold. He never once acknowledged the theft. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in the shredder. I watched it disappear, strip by strip, until it became confetti without meaning. Closure doesn't come from answers. It comes from decisions. Chloe didn't write, not directly. Her presence lingered in subtler ways. Mutual acquaintances stopped inviting me to gatherings. I heard whispers about how I'd changed, how money had hardened me, how success had made me cruel. It fascinated me how quickly people confuse boundaries with brutality when they're used to benefiting from your silence. I enrolled in classes I'd postponed for years, night courses, challenging ones, the kind that required focus, not guilt. Sitting in lecture halls surrounded by strangers who knew nothing about my past felt like anonymity in its purest form. I wasn't a role. I was just a person with a notebook and a future. One evening after class, I walked home through Ballard as the sun dipped low, staining the sky in copper and rose. I stopped at a cafe and ordered a glass of wine without checking my bank balance first. The ease of it startled me. Ownership isn't about possession. It's about permission, the permission to choose without fear. Aunt Christina visited in early spring. She stood in my apartment, surveying the clean lines, the light absence of clutter. She nodded approvingly. "This place doesn't echo," she said. "What do you mean?" "Some homes echo with other people's expectations. This one doesn't." We sat by the window, watching boats drift across the sound. She told me stories she'd never shared before. About our grandmother, about the early signs she'd seen in Jeffrey that no one wanted to acknowledge, about the cost of being the first to say no. "Being first is lonely," she said, "but it makes being next possible." I understood then that my story didn't end with justice. It extended into responsibility, not to fix anyone, not to save anyone, but to refuse to lie for them. The court proceedings concluded quietly. No headlines, no dramatic sentencing. Jeffrey accepted a plea to avoid trial. Chloe entered a diversion program. Consequences, softened by privilege, but consequences nonetheless. I didn't attend the hearings. I didn't need to witness accountability to believe in it. My life no longer revolved around their orbit. There were moments of grief, unexpected ones, in grocery store aisles, in childhood songs on the radio. Grief doesn't mean doubt, it means acknowledgement. You can mourn what should have been without inviting it back. One night, months later, I stood on my balcony as rain returned to the city, softer this time, familiar, but no longer oppressive. I thought about the girl I'd been, counting dollars like hours of freedom, believing love was something you earned through depletion. She had done the best she could with the tools she was given. I whispered a quiet thank you to her. Then I let her rest. The world didn't collapse without me holding it up. It adjusted. Systems always do. The myth of indispensability is the last lie exploited people are taught to believe. I wasn't indispensable, I was exploited, and now I was free. Not healed completely, not untouched, but sovereign. If there is one truth I carry forward, it's this. You don't destroy a family by refusing to be consumed by it. You simply stop feeding the fire, and sometimes that's how new ground finally becomes fertile.